Let's say that hypothetically, you're a screenwriter, and a Marvel executive comes to your door and says they want you to write the Squadron Supreme movie. How do you do this? What's the title? What's the plot? Who are your characters? Go. Let me start off by saying that my name is DJ Howard, and I'm an aspiring screenwriter. This is a series where I take the idea for a movie, write it, screenplay and the description, and explain my process. Now let's really get into this. For this first episode, I only put a scene in the description. If you guys are interested in the rest of the screenplay, let me know. Let's start out with some backstory. Squadron Supreme is a superhero team first seen in Avengers 85 in 1971, written by Roy Thomas and drawn by John Buscema. They are essentially Marvel's riff on the Justice League. It's made up of Hyperion, basically Superman, Nighthawk, basically Batman, Power Princess, basically Wonder Woman, the Wizard, basically Flash, and Dr. Spectrum, basically Green Lantern. What made me think of Squadron Supreme originally was the end of Avengers 700, where Ross is talking to Captain America, realizing that they've lost the Avengers, to reveal their own team, the Squadron Supreme of America. I think this parallels the MCU, where Ross lost most of the Avengers in Civil War and the rest of them in Infinity War. And it would make perfect sense for Ross to want to put together the Squadron Supreme at this point. Now let's start trying to put this movie together. I wanted this movie to have a similar theme to the MCU, especially the Avengers. The first Avengers brings up the theme of it being dangerous for the Earth to have powerful weapons like the ones S.H.I.E.L.D. was planning to build using the Tesseract. Civil War expands on this idea by asking the question, should the Avengers even have this power? They're essentially people with the power of nukes. Should that power be left in the hands of a private organization like the Avengers? I'd like to take that even further and not just ask, should the Avengers have that power, but should anyone have this power? I think that's extremely appropriate because Hyperion literally has a nuclear symbol on his belt. The idea that this is not an independent, uncontrollable group like the Avengers, this group is created by the government that will listen to what they say. Will this solve the problem, or would this be just as problematic as the Avengers? Let's meet my version of these characters. I'd like to really stress that this is not the history of the actual characters, but this is my own version of these characters. I want to go with a different approach than the traditional MCU characters. They're usually morally irreprehensible good guys. They're always on the right side, they always do the right thing. I want the Squadron Supreme to be the opposite of that. I want them to be really shitty people who have a facade of being good. For example, we have Mark Milton, Hyperion. He's raised in a US government facility as part of Ross's Supreme program. While he wants to be seen as a symbol of peace in the vein of a hero like Superman, that does not change the fact that he's actually super violent. I think this dichotomy of wanting to be a good guy but not being capable of actually being a good guy is really exemplified in the name of Hyperion. Mark sees the Greek god Hyperion as a hero who killed Uranus. But the story can also be read as Hyperion being a traitor who turns on his father and eventually banished for being too dangerous. Next, we have Neil Richmond Nighthawk. This is the de facto leader of the group. While the Squadron Supreme is the brainchild of Ross, it's heavily funded by the Richmond family. Originally by Neil's father, Kyle, and now by Neil himself. Toughened by hardships and scarred by the past, he's a man who trusts no one but himself. In fact, if he did not think he had enough control over how the Supreme Project was handled, he would have backed out ages ago. Neil's facade comes in the form of his brand of justice. He's a vigilante in the vein of Batman. But whereas Batman would leave villains for the police, Richmond sees himself as judge, jury, and executioner. He has no problem killing. He believes this is the morally right thing to do, despite it being in more of a morally gray area. Zarda Shelton, Power Princess, is the European contribution to the Supreme Project. Being raised in UK after the war destroyed her home, Utopia, she claims to be very against war and only agrees to the Supreme Project to act as a deterrent to war, and not as a tool for it. She talks about peace but has an anger management issue and is very easily provoked. Robert Frank the Wizard is France's contribution to the Supreme Project. Unlike the other characters who feel a moral obligation to be a part of the squad, Frank just does it because he's getting paid. He goes where the money is. Evil and good are just labels that change depending on who hands him the biggest wad of cash. The Flash is usually comedic relief. He's a funny guy to lighten the mood. I would like to make the Wizard the opposite. Instead of lightening the mood and making everyone laugh, he's an asshole who brings reality to the situation and pisses everyone off. Finally, we have the Collective, or as he's known in the comics, Collective Man. I know Dr. Spectrum is usually in this spot, but I think the Collective was more interesting, and he's not a traditional part of the team, so I think the role he plays in the team is more interesting, basically. Now, to end this out, I'm going to give you a quick summary of my movie. After the divorce of the Avengers from the US government, Theodore Thunderbolt Ross puts his supreme project into motion. He has fostered an agreement between 3 other countries to contribute a superhuman to a team to protect the world. During this meeting of the team, China reveals that they are backing out. Neil and Ross, refusing to allow China to go on with a superhuman without supervision, orders the newly formed Squadron Supreme to hunt down and handle Collective. Everyone in the team disagrees on what to do with Collective. Hyperion wants to capture him and bring him in. Zarda wants to reason with him. Neil wants to kill him, and Frank couldn't care less. This disagreement causes the group to split up and try to capture him using their own methods, hunting him down. Every member eventually finds Collective, but because of their utter refusal to work together, they get beaten down. Being on death's door causes Mark to drop his hero facade and Zarda to drop her pacifist facade in favor of killing Collective, which they do. End of movie. Tell me what you think. Do you think it's garbage? Are you interested in more? If you are, I got some good news for you. I'm planning to do more videos like this, so you might want to hit that subscribe button. I'll see you later then. Bye.